The next speaker, I would say that Marilyn Anderson must be the queen of daylight. Please welcome, here she is. Hello, Marilyn.
Hello.
The queen of daylight. I asked you to introduce yourself and your work, so please do.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with the audience today and in such good company. So it will be, I'm sure, a very pleasant panel. So indeed, my name is Marilyne Andersen. I'm a professor at EPFL, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, Switzerland. And indeed, I do my research on daylight. I was actually trained as a physicist. And when I realized that the world was only described in equations, I wanted to have a more tangible look at it, went to building physics, and then did my PhD in optics and daylighting. And then I became professor at MIT, where I continued this research in daylight, and then back at EPFL later on. I was able to do both a research group where I continued to push these research questions on daylight, and also spent 5 years of my life being dean, which gives me another perspective on education, and especially on the necessity to bridge between disciplines in education. So today, if we think about the area of education we are in an area where knowledge is everywhere. So it's not at all a question of not having access to data or not having enough knowledge available. What is very difficult is to make sense of it. There is so much of it that trying to extract from it what we need to move on, what we need to actually produce what we want, is the difficult aspect. And so if we think about education and how we should raise the students and pupils around the world, I think it's beyond acquiring knowledge. It's about getting them to be T-shaped individuals. Individuals that have deep roots and deep competences in a certain domain so that they can contribute to a dialogue and to a team in a way that they can bring something special. But the T also has a horizontal aspect, which is how to connect to others and how to be not really a generalist, but curious enough to know how to dialogue, how to speak, and how to listen, mostly, to what the others have to say when it comes to developing a project. Any project of a certain ambition today has to be interdisciplinary, or at least has to be a teamwork. So when we think about maybe the discipline of building engineering, building science, architecture, everything related to buildings in general, I would say that it is inherently interdisciplinary as well. The architect is no longer the one who holds in his or her hands what the thinking is about and then gives it over to engineers to make it work. This is the past. Today, they have to work hand in hand so as to come up together with the most efficient, most bearable, most acceptable, most durable, sustainable, efficient, all of these, and first and foremost, most delightful solution that they can come up with. So it's not about having the generalist then giving a problem to specialists. It's about bringing together around the table T-shaped individuals that bring different competences that are complementary to one another. A trap in this thinking is to believe that this constrains the creativity of the designer. I don't think so. I think, on the contrary, to have a constrained system, and here you can see my physicist mind coming back again, to have a constrained system actually increases creativity. If you have no constraints at all, it is hard to be creative and to be original, but if you do have constraints, then you can truly propose original, creative solutions by also learning and listening to those that bring these constraints and understanding why. So I think it's not about compliance only or having to obey some rules. It's really about taking this as an opportunity to think about a more sustainable world. So as a dean, I've been involved in many initiatives, or actually leading many initiatives, to try to make this a reality in my own institution. One of them was to embark our students, 250 in total, and 4 institutions, into an adventure called the Solar Decathlon Competition. This was about designing a solar house that would compete in a competition that was happening in the US in 2017. And over 3 years, with 250 students and all these institutions and instructors, we came with a proposal, a real full-scale house that would work with sun. But today, this is not a complex problem. It's not so difficult to make a solar house. So the students decided to go beyond the question asked by the competition and actually also look at the energy transition that this could address, and propose not a single-family home, but a hub for the neighborhood, a place where people could gather, where exchanges can happen, when a dialogue can happen, and where the place itself acts as a demonstrator to what is possible in the future. I also launched another initiative together with a colleague of mine, which was to allow students to be creative in their own way, to have a bottom-up place, a makerspace to be specific, where they could develop their own hands-on projects driven by their ideals, driven by their own energy, and where they could work together across the campus, across the disciplines, to come up with new projects, new ideas, and new solutions. And after 1 year of existence, what we call the skill, this is the name of the makerspace, already had 800 students trained to do that, even though the curriculum had not evolved yet enough to have this not done mostly on their free time. And the third was to engage the young generation of researchers into innovation and making sure they realized how impactful their ideas can be if they are brought also outside of the lab, and to encourage them into making this a reality. So all these aspects allowed me to experience firsthand how important it is to think beyond disciplinary boundaries when it comes to academic education. Thanks a lot.